Here's a healthy dish for you. It's a one-pot wonder of earthy mushrooms and rice. Simple, quick, easy, steamed Japanese mushroom rice. Welcome back to Wok Wednesdays. I'm Jeremy here from School of Wok, and I've just realised that I completely lied to you because although traditionally it is a one-pot wonder, I'm going to sear my mushrooms. So let's call it a two-pot wonder. But we're going to start with your rice. And my Japanese rice here got this lovely sort of thick grain of rice. This needs washing at least sort of 6 to 7 times, just gently sort of running your fingertips through with some cold water. So my rice has been washed, and you want to wash it till the water really runs clear. Ideally, you leave it to soak in that water for about 20 minutes to half an hour as well, and just allows the sort of Japanese rice to fluff up a bit nicer. We're going to measure pretty much sort of just over 1:1 water to rice, and we're going to pop that into what I call most Asian families' best friend, and that's the rice cooker. You could cook this in a normal saucepan as you wish, but for convenience, this really is great because you can pop your rice on, forget about it, it keeps it warm, but also it sort of gives you more space on the hob to cook things if you're cooking more stuff as well. So my rice and my water are in. Now traditionally, you kind of put all your seasoning all into that, which I'll do in a second, and then just throw your mushrooms in and press cook. But I quite like searing my mushrooms to kind of get more of a concentrated mushroom flavour, but also to sort of sear the juices into the mushrooms so it kind of slowly seeps into the rice. So I'll do that first. I've got some spring onion, mainly to garnish. But then once you've got enough spring onion rings to garnish later on, then I'm just going to roughly chop the rest of it, and I'll sear that along with the mushrooms. Now I quite like this with a whole plethora of mushrooms. So I've got some shimeji mushrooms here that just look beautiful. I'm not going to cut these, I'll just sort of peel these and pop them into the wok as we go. Some enoki mushrooms, which I'll just take the dry ends off. And then these oyster mushrooms here, I'm just going to peel so that they're kind of more natural. I want this dish to be really earthy, but you know, as I say, the perfect midweek meal. Shiitake mushrooms, you could slice these really thinly, but quite like to just kind of slice them in half. Again, just keep it nice and chunky to go into the rice. These are fresh shiitake mushrooms, so you can either use fresh or dry. Obviously, if you're using dry shiitake, you have to rehydrate them, and then you can just do the same. Now, it wouldn't be a Wok Wednesday if I wasn't going to use the wok and sear it, but the idea is this, that we get that nice sort of colour around all the mushrooms before we then add it to the rice. And then we'll mix all this seasoning together, pour that in, and I'll talk you through that in a second. This dish is a seasoned mushroom rice. So you want to go really generous with the amount of mushrooms. They will wilt down and sort of get a little bit smaller, but what I'm doing is before I add, so I'm going one by one or one type at a time, just so that they've got enough space in the wok to sear nicely and take in as much of that heat as possible. Mushrooms have a really great sort of base savoury flavour, and I'm a big believer in sort of sealing that savoury into the natural ingredient, the mushrooms themselves, for as long as possible, so that when they're in the rice, or sort of almost like poaching or steaming or in the rice themselves, that flavour slowly seeps out into the rice. You don't have to do this. You could cook all your mushrooms at the same time, but if you want that lovely colour on your mushrooms, then I'd recommend doing them separately. I'm going to finish doing all these mushrooms, getting a good bit of colour on each one, and then we'll mix it all together. So my mushrooms are all nicely seared I'm just going to bring them all back together in the wok, just so it's easier. Give it a quick toss through so they're well mixed, and they can go straight in to the rice cooker, or if you're doing it on the hob, of course, straight into your pot. And now, doesn't that look delicious already? With Japanese rice, you'd usually do a little bit more water to rice than sort of close to 1-to-1. But the water or the liquid in those mushrooms will start to seep out and add moisture to this, which is why I've kept it at a lower level. All I've got to do is season it up now. So I've got some Japanese soy sauce, some sake, mirin, that sweet Japanese rice wine, and to go with that sweetness, a little bit of brown sugar. And just to balance that out, a good pinch of salt. Because mirin is quite sweet in itself. Give that a good mix, and then pour that all over those mushrooms and rice. Lid on, switch it on, take a rest. So this rice is cooked beautifully, and it looks so rustic. As you can see from that seasoning, just awesome. And so easy. What I like to do is just mix it all together. And what you also might get, which I'm going to show you, is because of the flash frying of the mushrooms and that little bit of oil in the wok, you kind of get, even in a rice cooker, this kind of clay pot rice sort of finish where you have a slight sort of crisp base of that rice, which is delicious. So it's perfectly cooked, seasoned mushroom rice. Simple as that. Garnish that with a little bit of spring onion, and you're done. Simple rice cooker cooking, kind of a one-pot wonder. Could be a one-pot wonder, but certainly just a wonder. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, ding! Hit that notification bell. We'll see you next time.